So here's what's going to happen. COVID-19, fear, you got to take the vaccine. No, we're not going to make it mandatory, blah, blah, blah. But there's a second wave. People now are waking up saying there's nothing coming. This is just all BS. But there is a second wave coming. But it's not the coronavirus. What the media has done is criminal. They should be held accountable on a criminal level, not financially held responsible, which, by the way, is an important thing, but to be criminally held responsible. When people allow a government to dictate the foods that they put in their mouths and the medicines they take into their bodies, their souls will soon be in the same sorry state as those who live under tyranny.
I mentioned that New Zealand, after months of no cases of coronavirus, it seemed it was over. It had eradicated the virus on its... Well, no. 4 cases at least in a nursing home. Here is the Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern.
After 102 days, we have our first cases of COVID-19 outside of a managed isolation or quarantine facility in New Zealand.
We actually have 4 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in one family acquired from an unknown source.
Apologies, I said nursing home. The original scare was that there were infections in a nursing home. Tests have been done, but it seems that that is a separate case. We'll await the results of that. It could just be the flu. This was outside a nursing home, so that makes it even more worrying.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday. Greetings upon greetings upon greetings. Let me shift closer to the thing.
Yeah, come closer. Or should I come closer?
Oh, you know when I love it.
All right, I'm coming closer. Oh. I'm coming closer.
Yes,
Welcome,
yes,
everybody.
Please.
Happy Friday. Welcome to A Better Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We are now really just wishing for a better tomorrow because there's a lot of things happening in this world right now. And you guys have no idea how close to home it is getting. So let's talk about this video that we just saw. So last week, New Zealand recorded its first case of locally transmitted COVID-19 in 102 days. And the Prime Minister, I'm going to say her name is Jacinda. Sounds
sure.
right. Jacinda, I feel like it's a soft C. Jacinda Ardern has placed Auckland into a 2-week level 3 lockdown to control the cluster, by the way, which has now infected 75 people and is tracking to be the largest cluster the country has seen. I love their verbiage. Like, 75 is large, really? It's only a B in most places. But anyways, why does this matter to us? Okay, why does this matter to the Afro-Caribbean community, to us in Toronto? Well, nearly 90% of the cases are Maori or Pacifica people. Now, do you know what Maori and Pacifica people are, Dave?
No, please tell me.
They're Africans. Africans living in New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
Actually indigenous to New Zealand.
Yes.
So it comes as the High Court ruled that parts of the strict first lockdown were illegal, though justified in their circumstances. I want to read that to you guys one more time, okay? It came as the High Court ruled that parts of the strict first lockdowns, the one that happened originally,
Right.
were illegal, though justified in the circumstances.
So
okay?
illegal but justified.
Yes. Those announcements had the effect of limiting certain rights and freedoms affirmed to the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990, including, in particular, the rights to have freedom of movement, peaceful assembly, and association. And this is coming from the judges in the High Court. Okay? While there is no question that the requirement was a necessary, reasonable, and proportionate response to the COVID-19 crisis at the time, the requirement was not prescribed by law.
Wow.
Guys!
Wow.
Therefore, contrary to S5 of the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act. Now they're just going against these bills that have been set in place that gives us people our rights and freedoms. The use of quarantine facilities marks a major departure from how positive cases were managed by health officials when New Zealand was first at level 3. So as cases early in the year were able to any cases early in the year were able to just self-isolate. That's what everyone did. We just went into self-isolation.
Yeah, now they're putting you in a
concentration
camp. Oh boy.
Quarantine camps. While he admitted there are some reservations to quarantine from the initial South Auckland case, the Director General of Health said that there's very little pushback now. I hope you guys are listening to the words of what they're saying here, okay? Having spoken with the public health unit again, today everyone's quite comfortable about this quarantine. That's proceeding and it's been facilitated, Dr. Bloomfield said. There are benefits for cases and their families quite clearly, and they see the benefits for the wider community. Can we get someone who actually said it, please, instead of government officials saying that they said it? I haven't heard from their mouths. And keep this in mind, that little part there, because I have more to tell.
Oh boy.
So the Prime Minister of New Zealand has said that each and every activity will be monitored in these camps, and those that refuse to be tested will be forced to stay in the camp for longer durations. You can't even say no. You're not allowed to say no anymore. That's what's happening. You've lost that freedom to say no. Some Maori and Pacifica populations in New Zealand experience poor health outcomes. Again, I want you to remember that these are Africans that we're talking about, than other New Zealanders. These inequalities are deeply entrenched in justice. The findings show that inequalities in the health system are reproduced in adversary committees. Participants noted their knowledge and interests were devalued, and they experienced racism and tokenistic engagement. Okay? So the reason I'm bringing this up, because I think I mentioned to you guys earlier that the family that was found to have the COVID cases were from the African communities. Okay? Some indicated it took considerable effort to establish credibility. And now they're saying that, remember I was saying the families are like okay with it? The government said they were okay with it.
Oh my goodness.
The people aren't saying they're okay with it.
Oh boy.
Health policy advisor committees need deeper engagement and more genuine recognition of Maui and Pacifica knowledge. The leaders have constructive solutions for eliminating health inequalities that could benefit all New Zealanders. So there are people in the African community that have, again, they're probably using medical alternative medicine to deal with COVID. And instead of listening to the people who know what's good for them,
right,
they're enforcing these quarantines on Black people. Just thought you guys should know that. I'll let you take it from there, Dave.
All right, Australia. The neighbors to
New Zealand.
So anyways, we found an article stating here that authorities give themselves power to remove children from parents to ensure COVID compliance.
Are you guys hearing this?
Right. We'll leave this up a little bit, because we're going to jump into exactly what this is right now.
Okay.
Right. So Schedule 2 of the COVID-19 Emergency Response Act 2020 amends the Emergency Response Act of 2004 to create new powers during declared emergencies. And what you were looking at right now is what is called a Section 25 of the same act, and it states the following. Right, it's titled Removal of Children. Right, without derogating from Section 25, an authorized officer may, for the purpose of ensuring compliance with any direction under that section, remove a child from any premises, place, vehicle, or vessel to place of residence of the child or to a hospital or quarantine facility, as the authorized officer thinks fit, and may in doing so use such force as is reasonably necessary.
And we're gonna go into that in a second.
Oh man. So to ensure compliance, they can go ahead and remove your children from the home in Australia.
Guys.
Oh boy.
Do you think that Canada's safe from this, all that's happening in New Zealand? Do you think that we are exempt from what's happening there, Dave?
Eventually something's going to take place here. I mean, mind you, of course, they are waiting for the conservatives, the Tories, the Blues, you know, to go ahead and, you know, work things out with their leadership party, right? But, oh man, oh wow. So, by means, for those who need a legal definition, regardless of what a child is, over there in Australia, it is pretty much any person's under the age of 18.
18, yeah, man.
Right? So, the article continued to state here that authorities in Melbourne announced that they would be using surveillance drones to catch people who do not wear masks and to keep track of cars that travel further than 5 kilometers from their home.
Oh, gosh.
It's crazy. Oh, my goodness. Wow, man. So several videos have emerged of police manhandling and choking women for not wearing masks.
And we have a video.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, please, could we show the people what's happening?
I've been wondering for some time when we might see a turning point in the public debate around the pandemic, when Australians and particularly Victorians might stop meekly accepting government overreach, might begin questioning the one-dimensional, patronising, authoritarian and self-defeating approach of governments to pandemic management. And we might have seen that point now in Melbourne. Have a look at what happens to this 21-year-old woman questioned by police for not wearing a mask while walking along an almost deserted street in Collingwood.
Oh, get off of me! Get off! Let go of his vest. Let go of his vest. He's choking me! He's choking!
This is disturbing. This is over the top. This is Melbourne in 2020. Now, yes, as I've said before, the law is the law and we need to respect police officers. But for...
So...
You know, before some of these things were like hidden in plain sight. But now it's like, nobody cares. They don't care.
Your freedoms are being stripped from you, like one by one. And we're not paying attention because we're focused on the distractions. What else are they stripping away from people in Australia, Dave?
All right, so police have been given the power to enter people's homes without a warrant and perform quarantine spot checks.
What?
Yes, without a warrant, to perform quarantine
kick
spot
down your door.
checks. Holy smokes. Wow,
Okay.
family. They're playing with our lives, man.
What else, Dave?
Drivers are also being asked to show their papers at highway checkpoints simply to get to work. Right? Anyone caught outside without a mask or violating the 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew also risk a massive fine. Now, I didn't get any details from guys on how large a fine is. However, though, as we can see with the video there,
You can get choked.
just for not wearing a mask.
Wow.
Right. Australia's crackdown is rivaled by, of course, as you mentioned before,
New Zealand, yes.
Right, which announced last week that suspected COVID infectees, and I like that word there, that their family members will be held inside quarantine camps against their will for at least 14 days.
And I want to remind you that they're African. A high percentage of them are. Just wanted to remind everybody.
Oh boy. We
Guys.
definitely need a better tomorrow, don't we, family?
Oh my gosh. We'll see you next
Next segment.
next segment isn't any better. I don't know. Let me see.
Well,
Interesting. Next one's an interesting segment.
For
It's
sure.
not, it's not as drastic as this one. We'll see you guys soon.
we don't know.
So here's what's going to happen. COVID-19, fear. Got to take the vaccine. No, we're not going to make it mandatory, blah, blah, blah. But there's a second wave. People now are waking up saying there's nothing coming. This is just all BS. But there is a second wave coming. But it's not the coronavirus. What the media has done is criminal. They should be held accountable on a criminal level, not financially held responsible, which, by the way, is an important thing, but to be criminally held responsible. When people allow a government to dictate the foods that they put in their mouths and the medicines they take into their bodies, their souls will soon be in the same sorry state as those who live under tyranny.
we're back.
Yeah, man. Wagwan, Dave.
Oh, wow.
Wagwan.
Well, as we kind of know, like the future of technology, especially in the realm of warfare, this next piece that we have here is going to be a very interesting piece. So the U.S. Army is developing a self-healing and shape-shifting material that could lead to Terminator-style drones, which morph to adapt new threats. Right, so pulling inspiration from Terminator 2. So remember the T-1000, the liquid Terminator.
They broke the window and then he like oozed through.
There you go. Right, so this is this gentleman here. Yep. So that's exactly where they take the inspiration from. So it's made of polymer. The 3D printable component has a dynamic bond which allows it to go from liquid to solid multiple times. This new material is also equipped with a unique shape memory behavior, providing users with the ability to be the program and to trigger it to return to a previous form. Right, so pretty much what it's saying here is that, like this drone, of course, is going to be like controlled, right, from a base.
And it can like squeeze under a door.
Yep.
That's scary.
Very, very scary.
Terminator's happening right now.
I tell you, man. So the military group foresees the innovation being used to create morphing unmanned air vehicles and shape-shifting robotic platforms. The team also wants the material to boast the reconfiguration characteristics of, as you mentioned before, the
Terminator
T-1000 character.
T2.
Right. Leading up the actual the research and the engineering of this is Dr. Frank Gardia, and I hope I said that right. He's an actual aerospace engineer and principal investigator of this work. In the film, the Terminator, as you remember, is made of a liquid metal capable of shape-shifting, mimicking others, and self-healing, which is the inspiration of the new material. So the doctor says here, we want assistive materials to simultaneously that is, provide structure, sensing, and response. Right? So the material was first designed to respond to temperature, which is easier for lab tests, but the team understands applying the stimulus in the real world will not be easy or practical. Polymers, or however you guys want to go ahead and pronounce this.
Polymers.
We'll take that one too. Right? Are made up of repeating units, like pretty much in a chain. So as I understand the actual chain, so when it's, of course, like solid, you see more links in the chain. When it's liquid, of course, it's a lot more.
It's spread out. It's dispersed. This is just science 101.
Yeah, there you go. Right? So, where am I now? Okay.
The military material is equipped with.
Go ahead.
So the military material. See, I took you got each other. It's equipped with a certain bond that allows it to shift from liquid to solid, and is 3D printable and recycled. So the team has also included a shape memory behavior to the design that lets users program the material so it can remember past forms and, of course, return back to its specific shape. Just like Terminator 2, man.
Absolutely.
For our younger ones, go watch Terminator 2, the original Terminator, and you'll see exactly what this thing is. It's crazy.
It's
crazy.
Nuts. Very nuts, right? Gardia said that the immediate next steps are to enhance the actuation behavior and healing. Right, so of course, whatever has been thrown at it, that it, mimics the exact movements of the actual character.
I can't believe that this stuff is happening now. Like, to think, how old is that movie? Over 20 years, right?
Yes.
Over 20 years old, that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And to think it's just now that they're starting to develop this type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's the new method again on warfare, right? We've seen now, of course, artificial intelligence, right? Now in the workforce.
Yeah, AI is starting to take over, so
right,
the robots are coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, what?
Oh yeah, there we go.
I wonder if we're gonna get in trouble for this.
Hey, don't worry, they can find us.
Ah.
Look at that. See, exactly just like this.
I forgot this part. That's crazy.
I'm telling you.
To see what I'm talking about, you definitely got to go on and watch when you get to my TCN. It's on my TCN right now. That's nuts. I forgot about that part.
Yeah, but this is the future of warfare. I wonder how much trillions and trillions of dollars they're putting into this.
And it took the shape, and it took the actual complete make of the person. It formed itself. But that's what's happening. Science.
Yeah.
Science.
There you go.
All right. Anything else to say about Terminator 2?
Good movie. If you haven't seen it yet, please go ahead and watch it.
It's so scary. Oh my God. I would flip if I turned around and saw myself. I don't even know what I would do.
Tell me.
Anyhow. All right, more bad news, guys.
Go for it.
More bad news. So, much closer to home this time, the University of California makes the flu vaccine mandatory for all students, faculty, and staff. So you know how there's a point where they ask the doctor, do you want a vaccine shot? And you're like, nah, Now if you want to go to school, you have to take the shot. So why are vaccine mandates moving forward? And these are some questions I need you to think about. When there is adequate evidence showing that they are not a one-size-fits-all product. They cause injury, they've never provided any type of herd immunity, and they're not effective all the time against the target disease. So the University of California recently announced that all students, faculty, and staff will be required to get their flu vaccinations before November 1st of this year. It's part of a new system-wide executive order that UC officials announced on Friday. According to them, it's a proactive measure to help protect members of the UC community and the public at large, and to
ameliorate.
I don't like it.
Me neither.
Ameliorate the severe burdens on healthcare systems anticipated during the coming fall and winter from influenza and, of course, COVID-19, which is influenza. So I don't know why they said influenza and influenza. So a few other universities nationwide have enacted similar policies. Purdue University in India, for example, decided in June to require people returning to the campus to get the shot. So these are all university now students who have to get the shot before they go back to school. The University of Miami and the University of Tennessee in Knoxville have also added flu vaccine requirements. Okay, so you got to get it. Now, why is this important? So this is important because all of these mandates are being enacted under the belief that they will help prevent flu cases, COVID cases, and also help protect other people as well, which is, of course, the backbone of the argument for the vaccine industry.
Absolutely.
That's what they say. That's their mandate, right? Mandates are also moving forward based on the assumption that vaccines are completely safe and effective for everyone. Okay? The problem is these assumptions do not match a lot of the science that's been published over the years. And this is the part that I think confuses me the most, Dave. Why do people not look at research studies that have been done? Why don't people look a little bit further? Why do you think people are afraid to dig? Before I go into these studies.
I don't think it's them being afraid to dig. I think what it comes down to is dollars and cents. Plain and simple. Dollars and cents. Right? Because, of course, the information's there. Right? The information's there. For instance, now the 5G network. The information's there. Right? But again, it comes down to dollars and cents.
They'll just shut down the entire show. Stop. Don't talk 5G, Dave. You crazy? They already censored us this week already. So, Dr. Alvin Moss, MD, and professor at the West Virginia University School of Medicine, emphasizes, and I'm going to read, and I want you to look up this doctor, Dr. Alvin Moss, professor at the West Virginia University School of Medicine. Yes, and I brought this up, and I want to read this to you. The flu vaccine happens to be the vaccine that causes the most injury in this country. It's the doctor, scientist saying this.
Yeah.
I think many of you, it's been recommended to you that you get the flu shot. I don't know if you're aware of the fact the CDC statistics are that every year they look at vaccine effectiveness. For this particular year, the vaccine effectiveness is, let me tell you the number, 48%. So that means it's not effective. It failed. This is, okay, everyone go back to school in your mind a little bit. If you got 48% and you brought that home to your mom, what would she do to you? Beat your ass. But you want to get some beat-ass vaccine in your body, guy? Okay. It's not even all that effective. If you look at the scientific literature, the evidence to support giving the flu vaccine is moderate to weak. It's not strong evidence. They say the evidence to support giving the flu vaccine to people over the age of 65 is not even there. It's inconclusive. So a lot of the things we've been told as Americans, and we're speaking to the Americans now, obviously,
right,
about vaccinations are not based on science. What is it based on again, Dave?
Dollars and cents.
Guys,
That's it.
I don't even know what to say. People, again, we don't make up the news. We're not telling you what to do with your body. You have the God-given right to do anything you're supposed to do. But what I encourage you guys to do is, if you're going to be putting things in your body, research them. If you're going to be doing certain things to yourself, understand why. Don't just let someone tell you it's okay, because 9 times out of 10, they don't care about you. Dollars and cents. Next segment, what are we talking about? We have some good news. Next segment is more like, well, not really.
You just have to come back in to find out.
Yeah, not really.
We'll see you after the break.
We'll see you guys.
So here's what's going to happen. COVID-19, fear. Got to take the vaccine. No, we're not going to make it mandatory, blah, blah, blah. But there's a second wave. People now are waking up saying there's nothing coming. This is just all BS. But there is a second wave coming. But it's not the coronavirus. What the media has done is criminal. They should be held accountable on a criminal level, not financially held responsible, which, by the way, is an important thing, but to be criminally held responsible. When people allow a government to dictate the foods that they put in their mouths and the medicines they take into their bodies, their souls will soon be in the same sorry state as those who live under tyranny.
Here is the latest Africa news update.
Burundi has joined the likes of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Namibia in demanding reparation from the colonizers. Burundi wants Belgium and Germany to pay $43 billion in reparation for the harm done during decades of colonial rule over the nickel-producing East African nation. The move follows similar calls for compensation by the Democratic Republic of Congo after the Belgian King Philippe in June offered his deepest regrets over his nation's colonial past in the DR Congo. Burundi also wants Belgium and Germany to return cultural material and art stolen between 1889 and 1962 back to the country. In 2008, Burundi's president appointed a panel of politicians, historians, and anthropologists to investigate the impact of colonialism in the nation. Burundi also accuses Belgium for fomenting dissent in the country through the divide and conquer system. The European country has so far agreed to set up a panel to look at Belgium's colonial history in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, and Burundi. Burundi's
Yeah. So, welcome back. I keep saying it's going to be great. And then it's like,
well, it is a push, which is good.
It's a push,
Yep.
but it's not coming from like a great place. So, Burundi wants Germany and Belgium to pay $43 billion in reparations for colonial. I was right? Colonial crimes. I'm so sorry. So last week we had mentioned that Namibia. Hold on. Did I say it right?
You said it right the first
time. Namibia was seeking reparations from Germany. And this week, it's Burundi. It's like they're coming after everybody, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
So Burundi has asked former colonizers, Germany and Belgium, to pay about 36 billion, I think that's euros, as reparative justice for when the two European nations controlled the East African territory that became a sovereign country. So reports say that Burundi's upper legislative body has constituted a team of experts to critically assess how much is owed to Burundi, but the stipulative figure is in the billions of euros, okay? The country is also ready to make its case before an appropriate international court. Germany colonized the territory in 1890 as part of the German East African colonies. Oh, Lord. So from these colonies, Germany sourced such commodities as cotton, coffee, and they did stuff like this. People know about this. I don't know if anyone knows the fact that they used to do this, cut off people's arms and things like that. So after losing World War I, one of Germany's concessions included losing Burundi from 1924 until 1962. Burundi came under complete Belgium control. So Belgian colonization was marked by various atrocities, including the infamous kidnapping of Burundian biracial children to Belgium during the 1940s and 1950s.
Right.
The children were then raised in Catholic institutions in Belgium. Kind of sounds like residential schooling here in Canada.
I think for those of us who need a little more information on that, I think it's in the book, The Ghost of Leopold's Past, which is a really, it's a dense book. But
have you read it?
Yeah, I got it at home. Crazy information.
Your book collection, how come I haven't even seen that?
It's in there somewhere.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so Burundi would also like to revisit the death of Prime Minister Louise. Oh, let's see if I can say this.
Go slowly.
Okay. Rwagasore.
Not bad.
Rwagasore?
That sounds good.
In 1961, a vocal proponent of full independence. Rwagasore was assassinated just a year before the Belgians handed over total control of the country. Of course. Of course they had to kill him. So in June, the Democratic Republic of Congo also requested reparations after Belgian King Philippe asked for forgiveness for Belgium's brutal colonial history in the country. So King Philippe was forced to render the apologies after the death of George Floyd sparked global anti-racist and anti-imperialist protests. So in my head, I'm like,
we don't want no more lip service.
We don't want it's your apology doing, guy.
Yeah,
do nothing, man.
No
Like
more lip service, man. Come out of pocket, no.
Like, yeah, pay. Like, and again, that's still not going to even do anything because there's just so much damage. The psychological damage that has caused to us as a people. Like, money can't really pay for that stuff, and nor can your sussa apology. Post-independence, Burundi has struggled to find the stability necessary for progress. In 1993, an inter-ethnic conflict between the country's two biggest groups, the Hutus and the Tutsis.
There you go.
I remember, weren't they in that
Hotel
Rwanda? That's right, broke out. Over 300,000 were killed over the 12-year civil war.
Yeah, man. They just left a century, generations and generations of instability.
And you want to apologize.
No more lip service.
So good news. This is good news. I promise you guys, we have something good.
Yeah, when I first found this story, it was like amazing, just the atrocities, of the university at the time, but by means, God prevails. So the first black student at Auburn University is awarded his master's degree 51 years later.
Oh, wait till you hear this story.
Yeah, man, for real, man. So the university awarded his first black student after rejecting his thesis, the Auburn Plainsman reports. Harold Franklin, who is now 84 years old, and that was him. That was him back then.
Come young and sharp.
Trust me. Was the first black student to integrate into Auburn University in 1964 after several unsuccessful attempts to prevent him from attending the school. After 2 years of litigation, Franklin was finally accepted, but his battle was just the beginning. Right? There's another picture of him right there.
That's him now.
Oh yeah, amazing. Franklin spent his first day at school surrounded by hundreds of state troopers sent to protect him and a cadre of media looking to cover this historic event. Yeah, very nice, right?
Cadre.
There you go. Right. While the safety of Franklin was the main priority, of other obstacles were looming. In his pursuit of his degree in history, Franklin experienced enormous amounts of racism. Many professors in his department superimposed their thoughts on what the first black historian from the university should look like and what he should study. They even forced him to write his master thesis about his academic career at his alma mater, Alabama State College, as opposed to what he wanted to write about, which was the history of the budding civil rights movement. Finally, of course, he gave in, choosing to focus his thesis at his time at Alabama State College, a historically black university, by no means. Still, each time he would submit it for review, his advisors would reject his work for even the most minuscule of reasons. Rankin states here that I didn't want to write that. I wanted to write something on the civil rights struggle, and the professors told me it was too controversial. I really didn't want to, but I had no choice. Each time I would bring it back in for review, they would find something wrong with it. They justified it by saying mine had to be perfect. The other thesis, they weren't perfect. So why does mine have to be perfect? It kept going on so long, I said, hell, what you're telling me is that I won't get a degree from Auburn.
Oh, man.
Yeah, very much.
Okay.
He eventually transferred to the University of Denver, which, for those who don't know, that was one of the first schools that Dr. John Henry Clark began to teach at. University of Denver.
Nice.
Yeah. So where he did receive his master's and went on to build a career as a professor that lasted nearly 3 decades. Franklin retired in 1992 and received an honorary doctorate from Auburn in 2001. But this year, he finally received what he wasn't afforded all those years ago, the ability to defend his original thesis. This year, in a small ceremony among faculty from the history department at Auburn, he did just that in front of a formal thesis committee. And that was that picture. There it is right there. That's the picture right now. All right. So finally, Keith Herbert, an associate professor at Auburn, organized the event and sat on the committee. He spoke about why it was so important for them to do this, saying, Harold Franklin's story is a triumphant one. He is the one who integrated Auburn University. And that's a wonderful story to tell. But what we really need to tell the full story of that, which is that after he came here to Auburn University, the university did many things to try to obstruct his education and to try to push him out of campus life. It is up to us today to kind of look back into the past and try to admit the mistakes that our university has made over the years and try to find some small ways, really small and incomplete ways to sort of make amends for those things.
He said that right.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Small and incomplete.
There you go. Franklin was scheduled to walk across the stage this spring, but graduation was canceled, of course, due to COVID-19. This past May, his master's degree came in the mail along with a formal apology from the university. I wasn't even expecting it. I didn't even know for sure I'd gotten it until it came in the mail yesterday, Frankly told the Daily Home. I just walked onto the mailbox and there it was. It feels quite good.
Good for you.
Of course.
I'm happy for you.
You know, it is a good story, by means, you know.
It sucked that it took 51 years.
But at the end of the day, you know, time is the master.
And it's I don't know if it's a coincidence that this happened since this whole George Floyd thing.
It is what it is, you know. You know, our young man, I think he likes the story as well. Thank you very much for that one, Colton. Big up.
Small and incomplete. Those are the words for the day.
Yeah, very much.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about another topic. Actually, when I saw... wow, just come back. Yeah, that's all I can say. Come back to the next segment of A Better Tomorrow. Jeez.
So here's what's going to happen. COVID-19, fear. Got to take the vaccine. No, we're not going to make it mandatory, blah, blah, blah. But there's a second wave. People now are waking up saying there's nothing coming. This is just all BS. But there is a second wave coming. But it's not the coronavirus. What the media has done is criminal. They should be held accountable on a criminal level, not financially held responsible, which, by the way, is an important thing, but to be criminally held responsible. When people allow a government to dictate the foods that they put in their mouths and the medicines they take into their bodies, their souls will soon be in the same sorry state as those who live under tyranny.
We're back.
I'm just going to go my life.
Are you?
So I'll let you talk. Go ahead.
All right. So protect the children, family. That's all I can say.
Protect your babies.
Protect them.
Please.
All right. So Netflix is accused of sexualizing children with the promotion of an upcoming film, Cuties. All right. So with this promotion of the upcoming French film, Cuties, which centers around an 11-year-old girl who joins a twerking dance group.
11.
So the film's original synopsis, which has since been updated, states Amy, who's 11, becomes fascinated with a twerking dance crew. Hoping to join them, she starts to explore her femininity, defying her family's traditions.
11.
And that's Amy in the front there. If anybody, oh man, I tell you.
11.
So what you're looking right now, family, right, is on the right with the crop tops. Of course, that's the Netflix. On the left, that's the actual original picture from the French film, right?
Okay.
All right. The new summary of the film reads: 11-year-old Amy starts to rebel against her conservative family's traditions when she becomes fascinated with a free-spirited dance crew. Oh my God. Oh wow. So the trailer for Cuties, which is scheduled to be released on Netflix Canada September the 9th, right, shows the girls wearing crop tops and other revealing clothing while they dance provocatively in several scenes. I watched the trailer. Simone, have you watched the trailer as well, right? Family, if you haven't watched the trailer, of course, for reasons, we're not going to show the trailer.
We know.
Right?
Absolutely not.
I think the picture says it all, right?
They're 11.
Still, I mean, even just to make the concept of the film around this. Oh boy. All right, so Netflix has apologized since, right? In a statement, and their apology we're deeply sorry for the inappropriate artwork that we used for mignons or cuties, and my French is horrible, so crucify me later. Right? It was not okay, nor was it representative of this French film, which won an award at Sundance, the company said.
It won an award.
It won an award.
They had to put that in there as like a buffer.
Absolutely. Right. So according to Netflix's website, the film's director, Maimouna Dakor, won the jury award for directing at the 2020 Sundance Film Festival. While Dakor won praise for her work on the film, the reaction online has been far less complimentary. Right. Since then, there has been an actual petition. You can actually, there's a few of them that's floating around. Change.org. By means, you just go ahead and do the search for the petition. But they're calling for the release to be canceled, and by means, there has been actually thousands and thousands of signatures, which has been signed so far, or put towards the petition. Right. One of those petitions has already garnered more than 28,000 signatures at the time of the writing, and at the time of right now, which demands, of course, that Netflix go ahead and remove the film because it promotes pretty much, and what their eyes is used as child pornography. All right, those are some of the Twitter comments we mentioned on that. Oh man, I tell you, oh boy, I didn't want to say anymore. I mean, the picture definitely says what it is.
11.
Right? Jeez, man.
Does anyone have 11-year-olds out there?
Protect your babies.
Protect your children.
Protect your babies.
Like, and this means, and when I say protect, I need to just go into this a little bit further. Is that iPad you have them hitch up in front of? Be mindful of what is happening in front of that iPad. You guys have no idea. Yes, some of it is usually innocent play, roadblocks and all them stupidness. But you never know with how things are happening now. People can hack, people can creep. There are all those weird things that were happening not too long ago where they were inserting stuff in some of these games. You know, like...
Not to mention, of course, you know, what they're trying to do right now to pedophilia, making it illegal.
Making it, yeah.
Illegal sex toys.
Yeah,
right?
making it, yeah. So you've got to be just very mindful. And I don't know, like, I don't like to really judge people on things, but shame on you, man. 11 years old, man? Like, you could, I honestly would have been okay with even 16. I would have been okay with 16. Because around 16, people start doing that stripping. Little
But
girls
still.
start doing that foolishness. But 11?
But still, now, what they're looking to imply now is this. The lead character is an African.
That's another thing.
Right? And not even just an African, but an African who practices Islam. Right? So, as we all know, of course, you know what media does. You know, the mainstream media, you know, the mainstream imagery, you know, the white supremacists. Jeez, man. Protect your babies. That's all we can say. Protect your babies.
So I wanted to end with something today, Dave. And I usually don't, but I feel like today I need to. I want to end this with talking about our responsibility. And when I say our, of course, you know that I write for the Toronto Caribbean newspaper. And as a journalist, I have a couple questions I want to put out to you. And then there's some other things I kind of want to talk about today. I think it's important that people are clear as to what is being done here and why it's being done, okay? So how much of what you believe, and this is a question I'm going to throw to you, is going on with the world's current events is actually true? So how much do you actually believe is true? Do you really, and do you even care, okay? Do you think you would make different decisions about how you move if your perception was missing important bits of information that change any given story? So think about that. Like, would you not do certain things if you knew that there's something that was missing and it's like, maybe I shouldn't do that because I don't know the whole story, okay? These are very important questions right now, as much of what people think is happening comes from mainstream media, CNN, CP24, City TV, Global News, all of that, mainstream. Fact checkers, much of the time is just like only taking pieces of the story out. I want you guys to understand, these stories are built and made a certain way. I'm not making this up. I'm in the media space. I'm watching and seeing what's happening, okay? So, what happened? There's actually some news on this before I go any further. So, censorship. Okay, guys. Children's Health Defense, led by Robert Kennedy Jr., has sued Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook Inc., and 3 fact checkers, Science Feedback, Pointer Institute, and PolitiFact, which many people know, for censoring Child Health Defense's content on Facebook. So the First and Fifth Amendment, I believe, the Lanham Act, RICO fraud, and declarative relief are their major complaints. So they've sued, they're suing this idiot right now. So yesterday, this brings us to where we are. We found out that Facebook actually censored one of our interviews. So I received a message last night from a community leader, and his question to me was, well, why do you have this guy on your cover? For those who haven't seen the cover, okay. So this is the man on our cover, all right? Mr. David Icke, for those who don't know him, he is a conspiracy realist, in the sense that a lot of the things that he has spoken about in the past, and I'm talking about years ago, 10, 15 years ago, are actually coming true, which is why a lot of people are now starting to tune into his work and going back and looking at some of his stuff. He wrote about The Matrix before The Matrix movie even came out, like things like that. So I think the question that the community leader asked me is fair. Like, people have questions, right? There's a lot going on. So the fact that there's questions are good. People are questioning. I just think we need to dig just a little bit deeper with your questions. That's all. And this is why I'm saying this. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at our last few cover stories, but we've been covering COVID with a little bit of a different angle. Now, I'm going to start with a quote by Malcolm X. The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's power, because they control the minds of the masses. And I'm going to have Grant pull each of these back up again, because I'm going to talk about each of them. So, most recently in the news, migrants from sub-Saharan Africa have been primary targets, and this is from that very first article, The Philanthropic Power. Can we put that back up? Did I say it wrong?
Don't worry, they understand it.
I'm Jamaican and I'm my father's child. So, in this article, I spoke about the fact that there was some global attention being brought because of this Chinese art exhibit that compared Africans to animals. I thought it was very important, the fact that I think in this article as well, I speak about some of the invasive movements that Bill Gates have made into Africa, on the continent, bringing his vaccines in and pushing it basically on the people, okay? Saying it's for their benefit. It's also the same man who has said that population control is a must, okay? In these next, I'm bringing up just some popular ones, the ones that we've got a lot more feedback on. I did an interview with Robert Kennedy Jr., and the title of this one was, What the African Caribbean Community Needs to Know About Vaccines. So Janice Campbell actually wrote this one. I want to thank you, Janice, for writing it. And in this interview, Robert Kennedy provides certain bits of information that, again, affect us as African people on the continent and in the diaspora directly. So polling shows that skepticism is the highest in the African American community when it comes to vaccines. And there's a very good reason for that. There are lots of studies that show that African Americans are much more vulnerable to vaccine injury. Vaccine injury, along with other diseases like COVID, targets people with vitamin D deficiency. Guess who has vitamin D deficiency, guys? Us melanated people. Okay. The reason why it's attacking African Americans because virtually every black person is vitamin D deficient. It's because of our melanin. It blocks the sun. That's why we not get burnt up when we go outside. So vitamin D inefficiency is fairly prevalent among black people. Melanin lowers the skin's ability to produce vitamin D in response to sunlight exposure, as it blocks out twice as much UV radiation as white skin. According to the Cooper Institute, there tends to be a greater risk for chronic and potentially life-shortening conditions such as stroke, hypertension, cardiovascular disease. I hope you're hearing some of these things, because these are all things that run in the Caribbean community. Hypertension, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, all which are associated with vitamin D deficiency. That again, can you throw that picture up again, please, Grant? That was the Robert Kennedy Jr., okay? Again, directed strictly for us. These interviews that we've been doing are letting us know that we are being targeted. We already knew this, but other people outside of our community are seeing it, and they want to share that information with us to let's make sure we are aware that everyone knows this. Some of us have no idea. Some of us are walking in a dreamland, but for those who are, we are trying to educate people on this. One last thing Robert Kennedy had to say. We know that African Americans react differently to vaccines than Caucasians. They're more sensitive to antigens. They need half the antigens that Caucasians need. Yes, it's a one-size-fits-all program, and he's talking about the vaccine program. Maybe some benefits from vaccines, but it's clearly true, and I want you to listen to this, that African Americans are disproportionately injured by vaccines. Now, him saying African Americans means nothing to me because end of the day, Caribbeans are involved in that too. Afro-Canadians, Africans living in the diaspora, all of us, we are affected more by vaccines. So let's get to our article this week, and that is David and Goliath and why I put David Icke on the cover, and as he had it as a cover story. Science will tell you that radio, television, the internet, or any other electromagnetic carrier can be used to carry a signal that will influence the behavior of people who are in close proximity of that signal. During my interview with Mr. Icke, again, for a lot of people, maybe people don't know, my background is psychology. This is what I've been trained in. And one thing that I know for a fact is that us as a people, they have used psychological warfare on us to keep a lot of us, and they've been doing this, again, we can go back to Willie Lynch. That was psychological warfare against us. So in my dialogue with Mr. Icke, that's exactly what we were talking about. We were talking about the fact that they have been using this, and again, disproportionately against us as a people. He has history of this. He knows these things. He's been writing about this. Not all of his stuff is targeted just to us, but a large bit of it is saying, again, for all of us globally, that we are being tricked. We are being fooled. And what he was saying back then is coming true now in a lot of senses when it comes to the vaccines, when it comes to contact tracing. Again, guys, let's go back to New Zealand right now. Who was affected? Africans. Again, it's about, all right, let me just end by saying this, yeah? To answer our community leader's question, everything that I do, everything that we do as a network, TCN, everything we do when we're writing our articles in here, it's always about the betterment of our community. So this is what I would really encourage everyone to do. Instead of us critiquing each other on how we are all fighting this fight, how about we support each other on how each of us are fighting each fight? It may not be the way that you do it, but it does not mean that it's not a good way to do it. We all have our ways. We all have our ways of thinking and believing. But guys, the final goal is this. There is a larger beast out there that we have to fight, and we got to do this together. We can't be critiquing things because it doesn't suit how you do things. That can't work. Sorry, it can't. If the leader wants to speak to me about this after, he knows where to find me. He texted me, so he can call me, and we can talk about this some more. I'm done. I got emotional at the end. Sorry. It is what it is. Guys, we'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts about fighting. Dave, why are you not saying anything?
Because it was your time.
Thank you, baby. Guys, you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. If you have any thoughts, questions, beliefs, ways that we can work together. Oh, yes. Thank you, Grant. Speaking of articles, we have another individual that we interviewed, Dr. Buttar. And that's another interview that I think you guys need to look out for. It's going to be coming out next week, Wednesday. He talks directly to us about how, again, vaccines, mainstream media, all these people out here, these puppets behind everything that's happening, none of this stuff is for us. It's not helping us at all. And again, we are always disproportionately affected by this. So guys, I'm just trying to get the knowledge out to you. That's it. I'm done.
Cool.
Say goodbye, Dave.
Goodbye, Dave.
See you guys next week.
Peace and love, family.
So here's what's going to happen. COVID-19, fear. You got to take the vaccine. No, we're not going to make it mandatory, blah, blah, blah. But there's a second wave. People now are waking up saying there's nothing coming. This is just all BS. But there is a second wave coming. But it's not the coronavirus. What the media has done is criminal. They should be held accountable on a criminal level, not financially held responsible, which, by the way, is an important thing, but to be criminally held responsible. When people allow a government to dictate the foods that they put in their mouths and the medicines they take into their bodies, their souls will soon be in the same sorry state as those who live under tyranny.